I'm so glad and happy to see Brittany. I haven't seen you in so long, and I'm of course happy to see Brighde. We chat all the time, but I just want to dig in right now and get started on the Christmas market. So tell me, gals, what are Christmas markets?
Go ahead, Britt.
We're both just going to jump in together at the same time. Yeah, I mean, there's street markets that take place during the Advent weeks in November, December. And they started in Germany, and they go pretty much for the entire month of December, and they start pretty abruptly. They stop pretty abruptly. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So usually these markets take place in the main squares of a European town, usually, just like my background right here. And they put up these really cute little stalls that usually they're made out of wood, then nicely lit, and lots of little fairy lights and things like that. And usually these are rented by local vendors, craftspeople, and they will have that stall for the period of the Christmas markets. And yeah, it's a really great place to do some Christmas gift shopping and to just sort of enjoy the atmosphere that these Christmas markets have. And yeah, it just really creates like a very nice atmosphere in the town, village, or city in that time.
You know what? I love shopping. I'm going to have to, Britt, I'm coming. I'm
Wow.
going to come stay.
For those of you who don't know, I live in Berlin, Germany. So perfect, right at the heart of the Christmas market scene.
Now, you did mention that they originated in Germany, but can you tell us where some of these Christmas markets are located?
Yeah, so they, I think the original Christmas market is actually in Vienna, and then eventually it was Germany's the country that took over in popularity. But you can now find Christmas markets in a lot of different countries and across the world, Budapest, Portugal, Italy, France, Switzerland, to name a few. In Berlin alone, just to give you perspective on how many Christmas markets there are where I live, there are 80 in the city of Berlin, and there are, I think, 2,500 across Germany. So there are a lot of Christmas markets all over this country and city.
Lots of shopping.
Lots of shopping.
Yeah, and if my understanding of this is well, like in a long hundreds of years ago, the winter period was extremely long and kind of miserable in many, many ways. So just like in many countries, many cultures, they decided to create some sort of festival in the middle of the winter to just bring a little bit of cheer to this otherwise dull and cold time, to get people a little bit excited, to celebrate the start of Advent. And these have obviously grown in size. There are more and more of them. And even though sort of Central Europe and Germany and Eastern France is where the sort of the most traditional markets have been, in that they have been running for a very long time. A lot of other countries and towns and places have started having their own Christmas markets because it's great for tourism. And it's just such a lovely thing to do. So you can find Christmas markets throughout Europe in so many places, from really, really big cities to really small towns. It's really fun.
So tell me what the atmosphere is like. Is it like a party kind of thing, or is it like serious shopping, or a little bit of both?
Donna's hoping for shopping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for shopping.
It's definitely a place where people go to shop for Christmas gifts in particular. So yeah, it's usually open early in the afternoon, as well as like weekends, weekdays, depending on the market. And it runs through like late night, and then it becomes more of the party scene once it's late night, at least in Berlin, where people are, drinking their mulled wine, their Glühwein is what it's called here. and hot beer and yeah, still shopping. So
Yeah, spending more money than they should be, right?
yeah, I say budgets. There's also, they sell a lot of like Christmas ornaments and things like that. So yeah, people go with, I think, their children, maybe more during the day. But it's also very much like even during the day, an adult scene, because there's so much shopping and it's just such a fun environment and you just go with your friends. You can go multiple times. I mean, I go to multiple Christmas markets every season with different friends, sometimes the same friends. It's just like a thing you do. There's like ice skating. It's just really social, and there's a lot of different food you can try. We can talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, the atmosphere is very lively and a lot of good time.
There's often a lot of music as well, and there'll be choirs, for example, or these little performances as well. Lots of music as you're walking through the Christmas markets. It really does just feel lovely. And the fact that it gets dark so early, you know, often it will be getting dark at, like, depending on where you are, at like 4 p.m. or something. And, you know, these short days, if you're living there, it can feel a little bit sort of miserable. You only have a few hours of daylights, but these Christmas markets really, the dark evenings, the early evenings, they really add to the atmosphere, and yeah, it just feels so wonderful. And it's also usually in Central Europe, it's not that cold compared with like Toronto or the East Coast, for example. So it's never going to be minus 30 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. So it's not uncomfortable as you're walking around. You know, you're not going to freeze as you walk around.
Now, I think I know the answer to this, but who would love Christmas markets? Who are they geared towards?
You go, Britt.
Okay, everyone. Who wouldn't like, I mean, maybe a Grinch would not like a Christmas market. It's just so festive, so much fun. There's something for everyone. There's something to buy for everyone. I mean, really, I don't know who wouldn't enjoy a Christmas market. Anyone, any age.
It's great for families, great for everybody, really. I would say, just something I'm thinking about just now, like they're quite crowded places sometimes. So if you have some mobility issues, that, you know, you might want to try to figure out a time that would be good to go. But, you know, I will say I am not the most festive person in the world. I'm not a Grinch, but I am certainly not normally a big Christmas person, but I still love it. I love the stalls. I'm not even that much of a shopper, but I love the sights. I love the sounds. The atmosphere is really nice. The decoration, as you can see behind us in our virtual backgrounds, we've got like the Christmas trees and these beautiful lights, and the smells of the candied nuts cooking and the chestnuts. I mean, it's just lovely. And often there's fewer cars as well, because they'll be pedestrianizing certain areas. So I just love it too, even though I am a bit of a Grinch.
I would
I'm
also
right there with you.
Also not very, I mean, they can get crowded also depending on which market, but a lot of, in Berlin, at least I can speak from experience, that there are so many that they're not so crowded and you're not standing in line for everything. And I think this is something you don't know to expect, like you don't know what you don't know, but in these markets, like even if there's like a long line if there's a popularity over like one type of food, the longest line we'll get isn't like outrageous. And I think, like, at least in the US, like, you're waiting in line at festivals all the time for everything. And it's just one of those things that you don't know to not expect, but it's really pleasant. So if anything makes you impatient, you know, sometimes it's just waiting in a line and you don't have, you know, that all over the place. So it's really nice.
That's really good to hear, because just to interject as the Canadian of the group, and Brighde, if you've been to Toronto for the Christmas market, sometimes the lineup for the Christmas market in Toronto can be up to 2 hours just to get inside. And then you end up crammed into a space. It's an outdoor space with beautiful stalls, but it's just like trying to get anywhere is sometimes a challenge. So I may have to consider the European markets if
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, there's no huge lineups, 'cause I
there's no huge lineups, because I steer clear of the Toronto one just because of that.
'cause I steer clear of the Toronto one just because of that. Yeah.
I steer clear of the Toronto one just because of that. 'Cause I steer clear of the Toronto one just because of that.
So I do have a question. What kinds of things do they sell? You know, and what can you buy? Are there any local artisan crafts? And I think Jason mentioned stalls. Is it all stalls or is it stores or how is it set up? That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Britt. Go ahead.
Still on the shopping. We're still talking about shopping with Donna. Just
I
kidding. So yeah, great place for souvenirs. Like I said, a lot of handmade souvenirs, but there are different stalls, but there's also like rides sometimes. There are like other activities like ice skating. There's like some really showy ice skating. I remember watching people ice skate and just backward skating and flipping and doing all this stuff at a casual market. So people really like show off. These are like really great places to people watch. But back to like, yeah, birthday gifts, Christmas decorations in general. What else can you buy there? I mean, yeah, I mean, pretty much it's sweets, everything. There's food.
Is it mostly local artisans or is it?
Yeah, there's actually a vegan Christmas market in Berlin. I'm not sure how many there are, but I know there's one famous one, and they are specifically targeted like local artisans, sustainable, local craftsmen, sustainable decorations. They don't do any plastic. Cool. They use, they use like non-disposable like plates and things. So I think, but generally speaking, like you'll find like local artisans in general, like even with making scarves or hats and also goods.
No, sorry, go ahead, Brighde.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to ask your next question. Do you have to pay to get into any of the Christmas markets?
That is a great question. I was in Vancouver. I live close to Vancouver, and last December, and we discovered there was a Vancouver Christmas market. So, you know, we like Christmas markets. We went, and I was shocked to my core when I realized that I had to pay $18 to get in. And for that, I would get the opportunity to spend more money on some food there. And it was kind of cutely set up, but it wasn't the same as a European Christmas market. So in Europe, I have never experienced that you have to pay to get into a Christmas market at all. You are supporting everything by going and purchasing things. Obviously, the vendors who are there, they have to pay for these little stalls that are here, and of course that supports all of the Christmas decoration and any performers that are there and all of the logistics and the safety and security and all of that kind of stuff. So no, you don't need to worry about that at all. You can just rock on up to any Christmas market and spend 5 minutes there if you want to, or a couple of hours there, up to you.
There was one Christmas market. They're all free. Like she said, you just walk in, they're very open, and there's multiple entrances. But there was one Christmas market I went to in Berlin, and I was also shocked at the price of entry, which was €1.
Oh.
But not to say, I was shocked when, you also told me about the €18, but that was the most I've ever paid. And it was probably the most elaborate Christmas market in Berlin. So the most popular. But it was €1, so not really breaking the bank.
Yeah.
I just did a quick.
Go to them all the time.
I just did a quick search on the Toronto Christmas market. It was closed for a couple of years for COVID. Last year they charged $8 per person, but it included a 3-month trial to Amazon Music. So 6 or 1/2 dozen. But like you said, Brighde, I have sometimes a problem where you're asking me to go into a place. I mean, if there's lots of entertainment, and that's the thing about the Toronto Christmas market, is they do try and make it seem, it looks very similar, Brittany, to the background that you have, just with the big tree, lots of lights, you get the experience. But I too, Brighde, am like, I'm going in to spend money, and we have to pay to get in there. That just confuses me. So I'm glad to hear that it's free.
And I'm used to free museums in general, free things, because I live in Washington, D.C. We don't pay for that stuff. The taxes do. But anyway.
You're gloating.
So you did say that it usually lasts from November, and they're there every day. this is a twofold question. So what times are they typically open from, and how long would you spend at a Christmas market?
Okay, so I think traditionally they would start at the start of Advent, and they would usually finish around the 23rd or the 24th, or sometimes in the New Year's. Everyone is a little bit different, and there's usually a website. This is usually a big event in the town's calendar. So usually there will be a website associated with it, and you can usually find a ton of information on the website. For example, Strasbourg, which is in France, which I'm very, very familiar with. I think they go through to New Year, and they'll have a big website presence for this event to give you all of the information, because they want to make it as easy as possible for people to go there, because it's such an important thing for the tourism industry, for the sellers, and for the town to be doing a great job at welcoming people to the Christmas markets, whether you're local or whether you are coming from further afield.
Yeah. And as far as time goes, I mean, some markets would only be open certain hours of the day, and some of them are just night markets. So it really does depend. Like she said, check out the website, and it will vary, but generally they're keeping, like, early in the day to nighttime till midnight, sometimes past.
And there's actually, I would notice that there was the Times in the UK actually had a running list of the top markets. I think it was the top 25 or top 30, and they've been actually updating the dates as they're getting announced. There's still some that are to be confirmed, so you might not have those dates right away, but generally speaking, from my understanding, is they kind of operate on sort of a cyclical calendar, so that everybody knows what's happening. Now, on that point, and just to round out that question about times and when it's open, are there any days that, like, if you went on, you said some of them close the 23rd, 24th, but the ones that continue on through the new year, are there any dates during the holidays that they might be closed? Like, do they all shut down on Christmas Day? Is there one that's open on specific holidays, or are there dates that people should avoid?
I can't speak to that very much, but I would say that if you can avoid going at the weekends, that would probably be better, because that's when people that live in that place, that they are going there, and because it's a weekend, and maybe go during the weekday before people finish work, in the late afternoon. That would probably be a better time to go, to avoid the crowds. But in terms of specific dates of markets being closed, I can't really speak to that. Can you, Britt?
No, I'm thinking I'm not sure either. I'm not confident, but I would
I'm
think
sorry
that
to
they're
throw you
closed.
both.
Yeah, no, but
Right.
in Germany, I mean, in Berlin, on Sundays, everything is closed. I don't think that means the Christmas markets are closed. I'm pretty sure they stay open, but so this leads me to believe that probably Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, they might be closed.
Yeah, and I only ask because places like, if you go to Dominican Republic, they have Holy Week, and Holy Week is a week where you can get really good deals to go, but everything is closed. You can't do any water activities. You can't really access anything. So I was just wondering if, did they all shut down and go, everybody's going to take Christmas off. So if you go at Christmas, it's not as spectacular because there's not as much happening. Was sort of where I was going with that question.
Yeah,
sure. I think that's a really great question, and another reason to talk with a travel advisor or to check the websites of these places, because if you're only in Colmar in France for a couple of nights, and that happened to coincide with the days that it was closed, then you might want to reconsider where you're going. You might want to go to Strasbourg instead. So definitely
is good. Yeah, that's
Strasbourg is the big one.
And thank you for that shout out to the travel advisor. Like Brighde said, Donna and I, this is the sort of stuff we do when our clients reach out and they express interest in a particular spot, or they have a market that they want to go to. We can kind of find out all that information for you before you book your trip, and make sure that you know the ins and the outs, so you're not going to end up standing in a square with an unlit tree and not able to enjoy the market as you'd hoped. So
Yes,
Go
and
for it,
on
Donna.
that note, I will tell you, as an Ireland specialist, Ireland does shut down Christmas time, so Christmas week. So it's not a good time to go to Ireland. You could go beforehand, but I would not go that week because everything shuts down.
Mhm. It's really important. It's something that people often don't think about. They just think, hey, it's happening. It's going to be great. I mean, I went to 4 or 5 years ago, I went to Halloween to the UK, and we were thinking it was going to be this big bash where we went, and we just ended up at the wrong place. And I was like, oh, I didn't actually consider this, that they might just not. So ever since that point, I think, okay, what is open, what is closed, the days that I'm going to be there, so I'm not stuck, as we said. Now, we did mention that there are a ton of different markets. Are the markets similar? How are they different?
Mm, mm. Well, I mean, each place will have its own kind of vibe, but I really want to mention how, obviously in the big cities there will be huge markets, but that doesn't mean that's the only place that there are markets. Smaller towns, even very small towns, can have markets every single day. I'm thinking particularly about Kaisersberg, which is this cute little Alsatian town. I would say that it probably has, oh my goodness, population of like maybe 8,000 or something like that. I'm guessing there, and they have a really beautiful little Christmas market there. So you can find them anywhere, even in towns which aren't particularly touristy. For example, Ensisheim, which is the place where we stay, which isn't it's a beautiful little town, but there's not much to attract tourists. But they even have a Christmas market there for the local people. It might not be every day, and it will probably be quite small, but it's still there. So you can see Christmas markets in lots of different places.
Great.
Do you have anything to add, Britt?
Yeah, as far as like the vibe and what changes, I'd say like some consistency with what you can expect. So you generally can expect the roasted, chestnuts and the roasted, the food elements. It might be slightly different, but you can expect the same kind of variables. And the differences would be some of the activities. So like the ice skating rink isn't at all the Christmas markets, or there's maybe the music varies. Like some places will have live music, some, will have other performances, things like that. So I say the activities also vary.
Thank you.
So you did say that some of these end like before Christmas and some of them go through the New Year. So are there particular ones that stay on longer, or, and when do they usually end? Most of them anyway.
I would say, because there's so many, like as Britt said, there's like 2,500 in Germany alone. They're not gonna all follow the same rules.
Right.
So I would say, check the website for the town that you're going to. Contact the tourist office there perhaps and ask them if it's not easily, you can't see it easily on the website, and they will have very clear dates of when it's gonna finish up. Because every place will be different depending on a bazillion things.
Yeah, I'd say generally right after Christmas they will abruptly shut down, but some are like open a week, the first week of the new year, and then like once right after New Year's, and then abruptly shut down. But it's pretty, at least in my experience in Berlin, it's like overnight it feels like. So once the season's over, maybe it's part of the culture. It's very
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
I wonder if the ones that stay on have sales.
Don't know.
It'd be interesting.
Donna, you're out for the deals.
Yeah,
I'm out for the deals.
I think as well, some of them close like in Epiphany, I think on the 6th of January as well.
I've read that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's officially when the Christmas period is end, I guess, according to the religious connections. So maybe sometimes they close on the the 12th day of Christmas. And I think maybe in more Orthodox countries as well, like where they celebrate Christmas on the 6th of January, you might find all of the Christmassy stuff is still in full force until the 6th.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a question that's, again, one that's just popped up while we've been chatting. So the stalls that are there, are these generally places where you might be able to go find these people in the town once the market is done? Or are these vendors that are maybe coming to the town and then you won't be able to see them until they come back next year? Do you know that?
I have often asked vendors for a business card, and they've given me one.
Yeah.
So they obviously have like a little business online, and this is their opportunity, just like any markets.
Great.
You know, they've got an in-person crowd with lots of people going past. So, you know, if you were to see a product that you really, really liked, or you know, you're not ready to buy it quite yet, I'm sure you would be able to reach out to them and buy it from them directly and get it shipped over to you. That's my understanding of how it works.
I was just saying.
Oh, sorry, Jason. I wasn't sure if you were going to say.
No,
something.
I was just gonna say that I'm thinking more like, you know, you try something and you really like it and you don't know if you're going to be back. Is there the possibility of finding more, or something like you said, maybe a bigger purchase that you don't want to make while you're traveling, but you'd like to connect after the event?
Yeah, and there's also, I know for sure, I'm just thinking about some purchases I've made in the past, and there are like specific brands. Like there's like a local distillery in Berlin, and they have like free tastings at the market, and they're like a local brand, and they sell their bottles in the store, and they have their own, you know, place where you can go. So I know that there are, and also there are also markets that are targeted for local vendors. So I'm sure those vendors are representing like their online businesses and their little, you know, boutiques and things like that. So
Nice.
and I'm sure there's a mix of both.
Well, on the topic, you brought up food there a bit. Well, let's chat about vegan eats. I think what everybody wants to chat about is what is accidentally vegan at the Christmas markets. Are there stalls for vegans? What has your experience been, and what could people expect if they're vegan themselves?
Do you like to start, Britt?
No, you can start.
It's a loaded question.
Well, there's a lot to say. I mean, generally speaking, there's a lot of non-vegan sausages served in these places. I can only really speak to markets in Eastern France, because I've visited many of those many times, and a few in other areas of Europe. But something that definitely seems to play out in all of the places that I've gone to are chestnuts, roasted chestnuts. This is obviously super fun. They also have these sugared and spiced almonds, which is really nice too. Stollen is a very interesting would you call it, bread, I guess, and very often that is accidentally vegan as well. So stollen is like a bread with dried fruit inside, and very often there'll be like a marzipan paste running through the middle of it. I'm a marzipan lover. I absolutely love marzipan, and if I see a vegan stollen, then I am definitely scooping that up because it is incredible. Very often they'll have fried potatoes. I'm not talking French fries, I'm talking like fried potatoes as well. And pretzels usually are vegan as well. Sometimes they might use a bit of an egg wash or a dairy wash on the top, but you can usually ask. And I think most of the time they're accidentally vegan. Have you found any accidentally vegan eats that are typical of the Christmas market spread?
Yeah, I'd say definitely not just the sugar almonds, but just sugared and spiced nuts across the nut spectrum. They're like every type of peanut or sunflower seed or anything with a variety. So it's just, they'll have these booths that are just any type of nut made any sort of way. But also to add to that, with like at least the vegan Christmas market, they also have langos, which is like a Hungarian street food, like a deep fried bread with, they have like a vegan version of this, and everything they sell is all vegan, like the food at this market. And what else? I mean, I think we're going to probably talk about what to drink soon. But when I think food, I think drink. So we'll move on to the drinks maybe.
Well, speaking
go
of
ahead.
that, yeah,
That's the
no,
next
speaking
one.
of that, so there's got to be some fun vegan drinks, right? So you talked a little bit about it. Can you go into more detail about it?
Glühwein is like the number one drink to drink. If you're going to drink anything at a Christmas market, drink Glühwein. There's also
What is Glühwein exactly?
it's mulled wine.
Oh, okay, so it's a
yeah,
mulled wine.
kind of like sangria. It's there's also a version, it's like Kinderwein or something. It's like a child's Glühwein, which they have a lot of this in Germany in general. Like they have like children cappuccinos and stuff. It's very, Europeans are really good at including children in like their future adult decisions. But yeah, so I'd say there's that, there's hot beer, there's a lot of different beer options or alcohol options that are very festive, but they're more like vegetarian. They're not, I'd say like for the vegan sense, it's more like the mulled wine and the beer and the liquor. There's also something called a Jaeger tea. It's rum and black tea.
Oh, wow.
It's a big drinking. I mean, once at a certain hour, I mean, people really pace themselves, but it's still very, there's a lot centered on alcohol, but it's not like what you would see in the US where people are just, going really crazy, taking shots and getting like, really wild and loud. It's very like sophisticated, fun for adults.
What a nice way to put it.
No, it's going crazy, but it's really, it's
now
mature.
the question that pops into my mind about the mulled wine is often what we hear about, and often where people don't understand the wine industry as vegan, is that sometimes the finishing of the wine can be a non-vegan process. Is there any worry with those mulled wines that they have that? Have you had to ask when you're ordering the wine if they have ingredients for it so that you are sure that it's vegan?
For me, I don't worry too much about the filtering ingredients of wine. And if that is you, if you are worried about the wine, then I think you probably should just skip it, because the wine that they use is just like a table wine, a house wine made like a blend of a bazillion different grapes from a bazillion different places, and there's no way that vendor is going to be able to answer that question for you, especially when they've got a queue of lots of people behind them. So if that type of thing is important to you, then I think it might be a little bit of a challenge, unless of course you go to any vegan Christmas markets, which we can talk about a little bit as well. And yeah, so it's called Glühwein in Germany, but it's called Vin chaud in the French Christmas markets, hot wine. And I've been in Luxembourg and actually in a few different places, but in Luxembourg they will add like a liqueur as well to the wine as well, so you can choose from a multiple different kinds of liqueurs. So my favorite is amaretto. I love almond flavors, so they'll put a little dash of amaretto in there. And something that I think is really, really cool is, I'm sure they do it in Germany too, is that when you buy your wine, they're not going to give it to you in a little plastic cup. They'll usually have like a mug that's been specially created for that Christmas market, and you'll pay maybe like a €3 deposit for that mug. So let's say the wine costs €3 and then it's a €3 deposit, so you'll pay €6, and then you can you could be walking around the market, or you can it's usually standing room. There's no usually sitting areas in the Christmas markets, even around these bars, I guess, for want of a better word. And then when you're done, you don't even have to take it back to the place that you're going to the place that you bought the wine from. You can actually drop it back at any old place and they'll give you your €3 back. So that's kind of a fun, nice way and of course, if you want to keep the little mug I've got some photos that we can show you later on, and you can kind of get a sense as to what they're like, and then you've got a nice little souvenir if you want. If you don't,
or
want
a Christmas gift for somebody at home.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So bring an extra bag is what you're saying. for Donna's shopping
Yes.
and for all of your beautiful mugs.
Yes, and they also have hot cider too.
That's my
Something I've
favorite.
also
I
noticed.
love that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how can somebody experience the market?
Okay. Do you want to go, Britt?
Yeah, I mean, because I experience them so often, it's really no preparation at all. I just walk through and, if I am feeling hungry, I can just grab some food, or if I'd like a drink, or if I'd like to shop, it's really not a stressful experience. So you really can just go in very casually and have a great experience without really putting in a lot of planned effort.
Mhm. And Brighde, I
And
think you have a tour.
yeah, yep. So yeah, I can talk about that in a minute, but
Sure.
basically, like I enjoy the Christmas markets as an add-on or as a way to make traveling to a European place during the cold time more enjoyable. So what does that mean? So for example, if I'm going to Alsace, for example, and I'm going to go and do all of the same things that I would do in Alsace at any time of year. I would go and see the cute towns. I would go and walk around, go into museums, do all of those things. But also, I would break it up with like visits to the markets, or I might go to a particular market because I think it's nice. But then, I'll spend half an hour there. I don't necessarily have tons of friends to meet up with, like Britt does, who lives in Berlin, for example. And I'll be like, this is really nice. And then I'll go and have a look inside the church, or I go and do the little Rick Steves guided tour of the town, for example, the audio tour of the town, or something in my guidebook, something like that. So that's how I like to experience the market. And of course, another way to experience the market is to go on a tour that's just has Christmas markets as a big focus. And there are quite a few different companies that do that because it's so exciting. But we have a vegan Christmas market tour to Alsace that happens every couple of years or so. And you get to enjoy all of the wonderful things of Christmas markets, but also see a lot of the other cool attractions in the area too.
So Brighde, you were mentioning that you could experience it on a tour. Absolutely. I think that's a great way of doing it, because from the look of your itinerary, you're not just hitting one market, you're getting to hit different ones, and you're getting a chance to experience, quite a few different markets that probably have different vibes and different feels to them all. We were chatting before we started recording about some of the other ways that people can experience the markets. You can absolutely book a river cruise. There are river cruise companies now that offer the opportunity every single day to go to a new Christmas market. The great benefit of the river cruise is that in a lot of those cases, those excursions are already included into your experience. A company that's really great and vegan friendly is Uniworld Cruises, which has some really wonderful ships. Donna and I are able to get you some more information about river cruising if you've never tried it before. It's quite a bit different than ocean cruising. So if you are an ocean cruising type of person, river cruises are a different experience. And I think they're a lovely experience because you get to get really close into some of these towns, and they deck themselves out for the holiday season. It's not just like the Christmas market is where all Christmas is. It's the entire town and village is overtaken with the beauty of the holiday season. So that's definitely a way that I like to encourage people to see it, especially if you love Christmas. You get a chance to go and experience a ton of different countries and a ton of different options.
Yes.
What would you recommend to clients to experience Christmas markets, Donna?
Most of my clients, I have a lot of clients that do their own thing. So they go to the markets on their own. But I have done some river cruises, just not the Christmas market stuff. So a couple of years ago, I had two people one was on a river cruise and the other one was a family that just happened to be in Strasbourg. So, what's the one in France? But they were like 2 days apart. They knew each other, but they missed each other. So, it's just two different ways of doing it. One was on a river cruise, the other one wasn't. So it really just depends on what you want to do, what kind of vibe you want. If you want to be on your own, with the family, that's fine. If you want to be on a cruise, these cruises are a lot smaller, the river cruises. They're not like ocean
About 100,
cruises,
100
maybe
cabins.
100, right. So maybe 150, no more than 200 people in a cruise. So it's a totally different vibe. It's not a party vibe. So
yeah, and there's not a lot of amenities. That's the one thing I think people are shocked about with the river cruises,
right.
is that it's really a vessel to get you into town. You'll find that unless there's a sailing day where they've said they're going to go to 2 or 3 different destinations, a lot of the sailing happens overnight, and you wake up in the small town or the village, and then you can go off and spend the afternoon. Now, as I say, there are some on these Christmas markets where they really want to get you to as many experiences as possible. So you have a morning in one town, and then you'll move down the river and you'll hit another one in the afternoon and the evening. So you get to see markets at different times of day as well.
Right.
But it's definitely an experience for, if you want to immerse yourself in Christmas, that's sort of the way to do it. You do a tour with somebody that's going to make sure you hit all the best markets, or you go on a river cruise and you can do the same thing, but not have to necessarily be on land all the time.
Yeah, these are great points, and that's one of the really good things about doing something organized for you, because very often, like for example in Strasbourg, this is their peak season for travel, and very often it's hard to get accommodation at that time because this is the most busy time to go, whereas if you're on a tour, then they've booked these experiences. So you might find that there's not a lot of accommodation, and what is available is kind of super pricey. It's peak rates. So my advice would be to book ahead of time, maybe book outside the main cities and use public transportation, or maybe you'll have to hire a car. If you wanted to go to, in Eastern France, for example, if you wanted to go and see these Christmas markets and experience the ones in the smaller cute towns, then having a car would be advisable. Even you could probably work out buses between different places, but I think the connections would probably be quite challenging to work out. It's not impossible, but certainly doable. So that would be my advice for people that were looking to travel by themselves.
This is kind of the reason why we're doing this event, Christmas in July. We've been joking with everybody, the weather's way too nice, way too hot to be thinking about it. But the reality is, this is the busiest time of year. No matter where you are traveling, right. Christmas is the busiest time. You should be booking those as soon as possible. And if you're not sure, reach out to your travel advisor. Make sure that they know what you're thinking about, because we're seeing the Christmas offers come out right now. There's a real push for those. And there are some companies that are starting to think about the 2023. So maybe it's not feasible for this year, but we've said it here. If we've got a group of vegan travelers that want to do a specific tour to go and visit some Christmas markets, we can make that happen for everybody. So yes. Let us know in the comments while you're watching. Stay in touch with all of us, because we can start planning for future years and start putting together some of those options for you. But booking around the board, I think we'd all agree right now, travel is so up in the air and things are changing so quickly that you want to lock in the things that you want to do.
My rule of thumb has always been, even before COVID, if you don't book by Labor Day weekend in the US, I don't know what it would be in Canada, but sometime mid-September when everyone's home and they're all thinking about Christmas, if you haven't booked before that, it's going to be really difficult to get what you want at the price you want. Because things fill up. And with this COVID and everyone wanting to travel right now, it's even going to be that much more difficult. So I would suggest, yeah. So moving on, I think, Brittany, you had mentioned about finding some vegan Christmas markets.
Yeah. One in particular that's very popular, but I also live in Berlin, and Berlin is like the vegan, I don't know if it's the vegan capital of the world, but they're everywhere you eat outside of a or outside of a Christmas market, you will find multiple vegan options at every place, almost every place you go here, like every restaurant, every shop. But yeah, there is one particular vegan Christmas market that's actually not far from where I live. But I don't know generally how many others there are, especially outside of Berlin, because Germany is very, they're all about their bratwurst. And so I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that about vegan Christmas markets? Did you find any?
Yeah, I have been to a couple. So I remember on our first Alsace trip that we did, that it starts in Paris, that on day 2, there was a vegan Christmas market in Paris. So we actually took our travelers to it. And it wasn't quite as atmospheric as like what you see behind me. It was still very cute, very nice. But of course, there are not vegan Christmas markets everywhere. I wrote a blog post about this back in 2018 for the 2018 vegan Christmas markets. And I did a bit of a deep dive into vegan Christmas markets. And I think like the UK has quite a few.
Oh, wow.
There's one couple in France, there's a couple of in Hungary, and this was in 2018. I'm obviously, they might not necessarily still be going on, but you might like to Google vegan Christmas markets in the destination that you're going to, Paris, Munich, wherever it is, and you might be lucky. And sometimes they're just like one-off events or over one weekend. Sometimes they're over a longer period of time. So, don't bank on it, but you could get lucky.
Now we were chatting, Brighde, earlier this week about Canadian vegan Christmas markets, and there are a couple. There's one in Toronto and one in Montreal, but like you said, not as atmospheric, and they only started a few years ago. 2021 and 2020, they went virtual. So it was very much a virtual marketplace, but it was supporting local businesses. You didn't really get the Christmas vibe unless you put on a hat and made your old mulled wine and clicked through everything. So I'm interested to see what it's going to be like post-COVID, but there are some options out there. And locally, I know hyper locally in Toronto, there's a community called Vegandale. And it's just a group of businesses that have kind of come together and said, we're going to operate in this little area and create a community and a space where vegan people can go. They sometimes have pop-up sort of markets. So like you said, if you're really interested in vegan markets and vegan Christmas markets, a quick search of your local area, you'll probably find a few that are popping up. And if you're traveling, again, your travel advisor or your tour operator will be able to get some more information about what's happening. And I think it's a great idea to at least go and experience these markets. And to, again, I'm big on the support of the vegan community. So anytime that we can support those sort of businesses, I think it goes a long way.
So
maybe, oh, go ahead, Donna.
No, go ahead and finish, and then I'll ask you.
Actually, I was going to lead on to COVID
Yes.
and how that can play out. So it's been an interesting couple of years for the Christmas markets. You've been there the whole time. What's it been like in Berlin?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't really remember 2020. I don't know if I was blocking it out.
I don't think anybody does. Everyone's blocked that out.
But yeah, I could talk about last year because it was still in the thick of everything. I think was Delta out.
Yes. And the Omicron had come out by then, I think.
I think Omicron came out this spring, I think.
No, it was definitely November. I know.
It was November because it was, it was right after I went on my cruise.
I got Omicron, but I think I got it later in the season. So maybe that's why I'm thinking of it wrong. But yeah, so we talked about lines earlier, or queues, how we say it in Europe. And the only queue I really experienced that was a little annoying was to enter the markets. They're normally more accessible, but you had to wait in line. You had to show your tests. So we had free tests in Germany. You can just go to any, they're all over the place now, but they've been all over the place. but they're just like a quick nose and throat swab. And sometimes it was just the nose, but it was free. And then they would send you your digital QR code. And then you would go into a line, and then basically just to prove that you weren't tested negative or positive that day. So it's usually like 24-hour timeline. So you had to get those checked as well as your passports. I mean, it was like all your paperwork. It was really like intense because it would be your COVID passport, sorry, not your ID passport, but you would have to have a form of ID as well. So we have like a COVID passport here, and it's like, it looks like a passport, it's yellow, and it's marked by your doctor once you've been vaccinated. They were checking to see also if you were tested either in lieu of a test, you could also prove that you've had a booster. So it's either or, and you would just kind of wait in line to get in for testing. So they're really responsible about making, I mean, the markets are outdoors, so the spreading isn't as severe as it would be like indoors, but they're still very cautious, maybe for liability, to make sure that no one's spreading anything. So you did have to be tested and share. I'm sure this year, I'm not sure what to expect, but I would anticipate that this will continue because, you know, people do generally just get sick in this winter anyway. So yeah, that was my experience. So there was a line, you had to show your paperwork.
I found as well in Europe, you know, sometimes to get into museums and things like that, you have to show the green pass or your paperwork and stuff like that, and that can create a little bit of a bottleneck to get in. But I would say, generally speaking, it's pretty low risk COVID place because it's all outside. That would be my
Pack
thought.
your patience, pack your patience. I mean, things are opening up without any, you know, facts, any requirements now, but you still need to pack your patience on that.
And before we wrap up, can I ask you both about the safety aspect? So you're outdoors and you're having drinks, you're having a great time. Is it a safe environment for travelers?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Absolutely. I mean, I live in Germany, and Germany itself is like a really safe country, and even Berlin is super safe. There was, that said, several years ago, one of like the first big terrorist attacks. I don't want to like go into like a really dark, but when I did the vegan experience Christmas market video, I talked about this a little bit because there's like a memorial there, but that was one of those one-off tragedy events where someone, you know, drove into a Christmas market in Berlin, and that's the market that I went to. It's the one that is biggest, that's closest to me. So it's actually a really beautiful Christmas market, and it's but that was like such a one-off event. Anyway, they have like a memorial there at the it was like the bombed out church is where the Christmas market takes place, but they have like a memorial there now. But I mean, that's, nothing has happened since, and it's not really something that you think about or fear, because it is generally, knock on wood, like a really safe country and city. And in fact, I think whenever I hear any like, you know, popping or anything, I always, because I'm from the US, I think I have like this kind of I always feel unsafe, and it's never an unsafe environment. People always like tease me about being American because I always think, oh, something's going to come out. I don't know, someone's doing something, and it's usually just like fireworks or something fun. So it's just a really safe environment. But yeah, I think I'm super cautious just because I'm American, and I've like, you know, grew up with, you know, also having like high media exposure and just always being so, but that's not the reality, at least like from my experience and what I know living here. There's no like, you know, it's not like an unsafe environment by any means. Maybe some pickpocketing, but I've never had to worry about that.
So probably having sorry, go ahead, Brighde.
Yeah, I think just try to be a little bit aware of your surroundings. I think pickpocketing is going to be the worst thing that happens. So keep your valuables in the safe, your passport, all of those things that would be a real bummer to lose. And either keep your backpack on the front of you, or just make sure that you are making sure that you are going to avoid pickpockets coming and getting you. I mean, I've never particularly heard of pickpocket warnings for the Christmas markets, but I do think in crowds, a lot of people, it would be a place where pickpockets might like to go and check out. I mean, that's not really a safety thing. It's more of a upsetting and annoying, frustrating thing if it happens to you. I mean, usually with pickpocketing, you're not in any danger.
Yeah, I had some clients, but talking about the attacks in Strasbourg, I had clients that arrived at the Strasbourg market several days afterwards. There were two different clients, and they did have a memorial. I don't know if there is one there any longer. Again, it was a one-off kind of thing. These things, this is the reality of our world right now, but, you know, just keep on your toes. And if you see something, you know, speak up, you know, that's all you can do.
I've noticed in Europe as well, in a lot of the bigger markets, there'll be, I don't know what they're called, those things that you have to walk through to show that you don't have any big lumps of metal on you. Those
security
checks, and they'll do.
Yeah, the security checks.
But the actual name of the thing that you walk through, I don't know what that is. And sometimes you'll have to open your bag so that they can have a little look. That's what they did in Strasbourg after those attacks a few years back. But otherwise, it's pretty nice. It's a really nice place to go and very safe.
And I think you should just expect, I think, like Donna said, you know, we have to expect that there's going to be, pack your patience, because there's different rules in different places that you go. You could have a bag check. You might have an extra security point. There might be a test that's required. I think what I've been trying to tell clients is just go prepared with the information that you have, follow the protocols. If you don't understand what anybody's asking you to do, or if you don't feel safe, or there's something that you ask questions, people are trying to navigate these waters with all of these different attractions. And how do we keep some rules in place to keep everybody safe, but start opening up again? Because I think everybody really does want to start exploring the world a little bit more. And I always tell clients, when you're leaving your country, just, you have to be on guard and just be on lookout like you would at home, trying to keep yourself as safe as possible. Most places you're going to have absolutely no problem, and you're probably just going to have more mulled wine than you probably should.
Danger.
I'd love to share a couple of little photos that I have,
Sure.
if now's a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And
you should be able to screen.
Okay, so I'll just whiz through these quickly. I just chose a few pictures that I hope will give you a bit of a sense of what it's like. So these are there are repeat travelers that come with us on nearly every trip, and they're in Strasbourg. And as you can see, this is just a little shop here, and every single little shop in Strasbourg, in that touristy that area, they'll do these beautiful creative decorations outside. So it's kind of nice. And, you know, of course, here we have hot wine with organic red wine. So it's probably like even filtered vegan wine as well, with spices, and you can choose the different size that you want with a goblet here that you get a refund of €1. This is hot organic apple juice, which is kind of fun. This is the picture. This is just typical as it's starting to get dark. The lights come on. It just feels very, very cozy. No snow. It's not cold enough for snow there. Here's some examples of the decorations, just the streets even around the Christmas market all deck out. This is Strasbourg Cathedral. Just very beautiful. This is in a small town. Even in the small towns, they go all out with their decorations. Really nice. Great for families, Christmas markets. These are a little family of travelers that come on our trips, and they're enjoying time together as a family. This happens to be a store that had vegan items.
Oh, I see that vegan. I see that word vegan,
yes.
And I just light right up.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, often hot chocolate is not vegan, but here we are. These are some different examples of the little mugs that you can get. This is in Nuremberg. I can't remember where this place was. I'm sorry, but
I would never return the mugs. They look, I thought they were just going to be like regular sort of like mugs, but no.
It depends, but these ones are all super, super festive.
Very cute.
And this one is in Geneva, this Christmas market. And I mean, they were just these different kind of, what would you call it, fire pit things? I don't know, but super cute, and like lights everywhere. Now, this is a really interesting one. In southern Germany, we went to quite a few different Christmas markets, and there was this vegan stall there on one of the markets. And then we were super excited. We bought a ton of these products. They had vegan stollen. They had a lot of the vegan Christmas breads and things like that. So this was super, super fun. And it turns out that this company actually has these vegan market stalls in a lot of those Munich, a lot of those southern German, Bavarian Christmas markets. So that was kind of fun. And, this is kind of cute. Again, another example of this little market stall that just happened to have vegan items. And as you can see, we're super excited about that.
I look at Colleen's face.
Yes,
Yeah.
super excited. We got the chestnuts and eating chestnuts. This is in Nuremberg. So super fun, beautiful decorations. We went to the Christmas markets with my mother-in-law and the father-in-law. This is in Eggersheim, which is a cute little town in eastern France. So their Christmas market mug is a little bit different, but you can keep it as well if you want to. I think this is in Geneva as well. And yeah, so they're just a few photos. Maybe it gives you a bit of a sense as to what it's actually like there.
That's awesome. If you happen to be in Canada, I can say a lot of those photos, Brighde, reminded me of what it looks like in Quebec City and Montreal when you go during the holiday season. So if you can't get across the pond this year, definitely consider, looking at those two towns for possible options. We talked previous sessions about the Winter Village and the Carnival that Quebec has. So those are some more localized opportunities for you as well if you want the Christmas vibe. And I think they've actually got in Quebec City still a 12 months, it's open year round, and it is a Christmas shop. And they sell everything Christmas. You can get ornaments, you can get gifts, anything Christmas, 12 months a year. So great spot.
Fantastic. Are we coming up to time?
I think we're coming up to time.
We are. This has been great. So let's just see. Brighde, how can they reach you?
Sure thing. Well, you can go to wellvegantravel.com. We have a podcast as well, and people can actually join the be notified first of our Alsace 2023 trip if Christmas markets seem interesting for you. Maybe I'll pop the link there so that we can pop it in the chat perhaps so people can be signed up to notified first. So that's basically how you can learn more about the trips that we have, including our Christmas trips.
Or you can contact Jason and I, but what are your socials?
Everything at wellvegantravel.com.
Okay. And Brittany, what are your socials?
You can find me on Facebook. Probably I still use Messenger, but I'm not on Instagram anymore, so I'm not as connected.
You're not?
But you can find me helping support Donna during like newsletters and things like that. So if you ever really want to get in contact with me, you can just contact Donna and grab my email.
This has been wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate it, ladies.
This is fun.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.